video, that is the first time detectives learned that there was actually 4 people in that gray Jeep, and that the defendant, Jamel Demons, is in the rear driver's side seat.
He even shot through the seat multiple times, and there was no defense wounds to be like, stop. You get me? It was that quick. Bang, 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 bang. That quick.
New footage just dropped, and it's about to flip everything in the YNW Melly case upside down. For the first time, we're seeing what really went down that night with Bortlen and Melly. And let's just say loyalty got real shaky when they hit a dead end. The night of October 26th, 2018 started off like any other. Young stars grinding in the studio, chasing their dreams in the middle of the struggle. But by sunrise, everything had changed. 2 crew members were gone, and one of their closest friends was behind bars. This right here, it's a wild tale of how fast money and fame can twist everything. The YNW crew had been like family since way back, running the blocks of Gifford, Florida. It was survival mode 24/7, make it out or stay stuck. Melly, real name Jamel Demons, was blowing up with his track Murder on My Mind, and the spotlight brought tension, especially with YNW sack chaser Anthony Williams, 21, and YNW juvie Christopher Thomas Jr., 19. They were day ones, solid from the start. But when Melly signed with 300 Entertainment for a rumored $200,000 to $500,000, the cracks started to show.
The vibes look decent, I'm gonna be honest with you. It don't look like nobody kind of beefing, nobody look too excited. You know, if somebody kind of got into it, like, niggas might be like, you know, they're not just walking normal. Like, everybody looks kind of chill. Good. Remember they said it was a gray vehicle. He gets into, this is juvie, I said, right? He gets into the front right side.
Texts later revealed sack chaser demanding his share, writing what, you blowing up? And he wanted in. We still eating crumbs. Pay up or we done? That's what one of Melly's own texted him. Straight pressure. In a place like Gifford, loyalty ain't just a word, it's survival. And once you break that trust, it's a wrap. The YNW crew came up together in the trenches, poverty, pain, and a dream to make it out. They had each other's backs through everything. They watched homies fall, held each other down through losses, and believed that if one made it, they all would. But fame changes people. And Melly's rise was fast, too fast. When he dropped Mixed Personalities with Kanye, he shot to another level overnight. Meanwhile, his day ones were still stuck in the hood trying to eat. He had big chains, foreign whips, and star-studded features, while his crew back home was struggling to keep the lights on. That difference, it started to sting, and in their set, known around Gifford as the Slimes, things got even messier. Respect was tied to rank, and resources flowed based on who brought what to the table. But Melly's solo success was shaking up that whole balance. Now people weren't just jealous, they were feeling pushed out of the picture entirely. The pressure between staying loyal to your day ones or repping your set, it was boiling over. That night, the crew was laid back at New Era Studios cooking up heat. Everything seemed calm until they left. Surveillance caught them walking out like nothing was off. But behind the scenes, something had already snapped. But in the streets, folks know, still waters run deep. Everything might have looked calm, but something serious was bubbling underneath. At 4:08 a.m., security cams caught all 4 riding out together from the studio in that rented gray Jeep Compass. How they sat in that car, that alone told a whole story. Sack chaser slid into what people call the death seat, front passenger.
He even shot through the seat multiple times, and there was no defense wounds to be like, stop. You get me? It was that quick. Bang, 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 bang. That quick. To stage the shooting, because they believe people were already dead, they hopped out the car and then they shot up the car afterwards, and they believe those bullet casings they found at that spot was a .40 caliber.
Melly, he hopped in right behind the driver, a spot that prosecutors later called too perfect. Right there where he had full view and full reach. Prosecutors claim the seating wasn't random at all. As they hit some quiet streets near Miramar Parkway between 4:10 and 4:20 a.m., that's when they say everything popped off. They allege shots came from Melly's back left spot, and it happened fast. No time to react, no time to even blink. Sack chaser got hit multiple times, head, neck, chest. Juvie was struck too, front-facing wounds that told investigators he never saw anything coming. It wasn't chaotic. It was clean, sudden, and left no room for defense. That's what shocked so many people. The examiner's report said one shot entered the back of sack chaser's head and exited upward. powerful enough to shatter the front window. Juvie got hit in the cheek, the angle showing he was just chilling forward. The whole setup from where folks sat to the direction of each hit made it clear they didn't even flinch. What made the situation even more chilling was how planned it looked. The spot they chose, remote. No cameras, no witnesses. That alone raised eyebrows. Add in how many times the victims were hit, even through the seats, and it became clear this wasn't random or emotional. It looked straight up calculated. There were no signs of a struggle, no chance to fight back. Everything pointed to complete surprise. But the aftermath? That's where things got even deeper. Forensics found that some shots came after both victims were already gone. That meant someone wasn't just reacting, they were staging a scene. Investigators said the whole setup felt like someone had mapped it all out, from the moment things went down to how they'd try and cover it up. And the coldest part, what allegedly happened next. According to the DA, after everything went down, the suspects drove to another low-key location, jumped out, and shot up the car from the outside using a different piece, trying to make it look like a random hit, like a drive-by.
Mr. Demons responds very succinctly, I did that. And they sit and they walk side by side for an hour, that mile-long stretch, looking for evidence of this drive-by. Because evidence is the remnants a crime leaves behind. And in this case, the lack of evidence is very important.
At 4:35 a.m., YNW Bortlen pulled up to Memorial Hospital Miramar with two lifeless bodies in the car. He calmly told the staff it was a drive-by. Not panicked, not shaken, just cool like nothing was off. Meanwhile, Melly, nowhere in sight. They say he got picked up somewhere near the fake scene, left Bortlen to deliver the story, and hoped the cover held. When one of the homies asked what happened, prosecutors say Melly hit back with just two words, I did that. Cold, real cold. The DA later painted that as nothing less than a straight-up confession. So what was the motive? According to the streets and the prosecutors, it was that messy mix: money, jealousy, and gang politics. The same toxic combo that's torn apart more crews than law enforcement ever could. Melly's rise in the game brought serious money issues to the table. And in their blood-affiliated crew, the YNW Bloods, also known as the Gifford Slimes, that kind of shift in power can flip everything upside down. Loyalty and cash don't always mix, and in the hood, when that happens, something always breaks. What made it all worse was how close they really were. Melly had their names tatted on his face while they were still alive. That wasn't for clout. These were his real ones. Brothers from the sandbox. Not ops, not rivals, family. They came up together chasing the same dream. Escape the block with music and bring each other along. They had each other's backs through everything. And that's what made it all feel like a straight betrayal. Detectives knew quick, this wasn't your usual street drama. The more they dug, the more they realized something way deeper was going on. This wasn't sloppy. It was plotted out to a level that shocked even seasoned investigators. When Miramar PD pulled up to the hospital, they locked down that gray Jeep quick and started pressing Bortlen about what really went down. His story, classic street script. They were leaving the studio, heading home when random shooters pulled up and sprayed the car. But once detectives tried to verify the story, things got sketchy real quick. They shut down the whole stretch of Miramar Parkway from 160 to 172, combing that mile-long strip for any sign of a shootout. They searched for over an hour and found nothing. No shells, no broken glass, no stray bullets, nothing.
In the video, that is the first time detectives learned that there was actually 4 people in that gray Jeep, and that the defendant, Jamel Demons, is in the rear driver's side seat. Because at that location is where the cell phones of Christopher Thomas, Anthony Williams, and Jamel Demons all line up at 4:02 a.m. At that point, afterwards, Mr. Demons' phone tracks with the 2 victims until about 4:20.
Even when they expanded the search another full mile, same result. It was just too clean, and that didn't make sense at all. Not with what the car looked like. The Jeep had taken serious damage. 16 bullet holes, shattered rear glass, both side windows blown out. That kind of scene usually leaves a trail, casings, tire marks, glass, something. But here, nada. Veteran investigators knew right away this wasn't adding up. With that many shots, something had to hit the street, nearby walls, or even surrounding trees. Some of those bullets clearly went straight through the car, but where did they land? That's when it got even more suspicious. The crime techs noticed something critical. There was no matching damage around where Bortlen said it happened. The area was untouched, like no shots had ever been fired there. The glass trail told a whole different story. When windows get blasted during a moving car incident, the shards usually spread in a clear pattern, based on speed, direction, and angle. But out at the scene Bortlen pointed to, not one piece of broken glass was found. That suggested the damage didn't happen there at all, it happened somewhere else. Then came the breakthrough. Investigators flipped the timeline and worked backwards, tracking the crew's steps to New Era recording studios. That place, covered in cameras from every angle, and what those cameras showed changed everything. For starters, Bortlen never said Melly was in the Jeep, but now cops realized if Melly was there, he should have been hit too, unless he wasn't a victim at all. That was the moment things started clicking. The footage showed the crew walking out of the studio at 3:19 a.m., not earlier like Bortlen claimed. And the way they moved, chill, no stress, no tension, no sign that they were being watched or expecting any kind of heat, just regular vibes. Inside the studio, more footage showed the crew working on music, laughing, vibing, no arguments, no signs of a blow-up. Everything looked solid. That detail was crucial. It completely undercut any idea that things just spiraled out of control that night. There was no beef caught on camera, no build-up, nothing to suggest a sudden fallout.
Why is that important? That shows a gun was fired inside of that car. The drive-by was staged at 4:02 a.m. The victims were armed.
But the biggest problem for Bortlen, he never told cops that Melly was even in the car. Leaving Melly out of the story wasn't just some little mistake. It looked like a strategic move. Once detectives caught that slip, they started thinking, if Bortlen lied about who was in the car, what else was he hiding? That's when things got technical. Investigators pulled phone data, and it cracked everything wide open. The digital trail these guys left behind turned out to be louder than any witness could ever be. Cell tower records showed Melly, Sacker, and Juvie's phones were all at a remote spot near US 27 and Pembroke Road at exactly 4:02 a.m., the same time the incident supposedly happened. They stayed there for 18 minutes, then the phones moved together, until suddenly one of them split off while the others headed to the hospital. The data gave detectives a minute-by-minute timeline. The phones moved across Interstate 595 in sync, then broke off at Miramar Parkway and 184th. One went toward the gated Sunset Lakes community, where some people close to the crew lived. The other drove into a remote area and then headed to the hospital. Here's the wildest part. Melly and Sack Chaser were using the same make and model phone, even on the same service plan. That allowed tech experts to track their movements with crazy precision. Both phones showed up at the same isolated spot, staying put for the exact time window that lined up with the incident. Then one disappeared from the route while the others kept moving. And the phones weren't just sharing locations, they were sharing health and motion data too. That gave investigators even more insight into what really went down.
YNW Bortlen, he could took the deal. Where did I leave Melly though, brother? Where did I leave YNW Melly and the K?
Melly's phone told its own story, loud and clear. Step data showed he took 70 steps at the studio, then another 70 steps right at 4:02 a.m., the exact moment investigators say everything went down. Then between 4:42 and 4:53 a.m., his phone recorded 1,397 steps. That's not just walking, that's movement, possibly arranging a pickup away from the scene. Meanwhile, the ballistics evidence, it completely wrecked the drive-by story. Investigators found shell casings inside the Jeep, proving shots were fired from inside the vehicle. That alone blew apart the idea that someone attacked from the outside, but it didn't stop there. Back at the remote location flagged by phone data, they found 8 more shell casings, this time from a .40 caliber weapon. That told detectives there were 2 separate shootings. The inside one that took lives, and the outside one staged later to sell the drive-by lie. The casings didn't match either. The ones inside the Jeep came from a different gun than the ones found at the staging spot. That meant someone switched weapons to make it look random and messy. But forensic experts caught it all. The bullet paths told the real story. Shots fired from the rear left seat, aiming across the car. That's the same seat surveillance caught me sitting in. The angles matched up perfectly with where Sack Chaser and Juvie were sitting. The way the shots hit, with no signs of struggle, suggested the victims didn't even know it was coming. It was close, precise, and quiet. Then the exterior shots, they were fired on purpose to fake the scene. Every bullet hit the passenger side right where it would have looked like someone pulled up and let off. The bullet angles told a story of their own, and it wasn't a drive-by. Experts said the shots came from stationary positions outside the car, not from a moving vehicle. But the real shocker, the medical examiner confirmed those exterior shots came after both victims had already passed. Yeah, someone fired into the car after the fact, aiming at lifeless bodies to fake a drive-by. That wasn't random violence, that was cold planning. Then came the digital receipts. Melly allegedly FaceTimed his girl while still at the staging spot, already starting to craft his story. He even dropped pins to his people asking for a ride. The whole thing was being coordinated in real time. And yet, when it hit the courtroom in 2023, the case stalled. The jury couldn't agree. 8 said guilty, 4 said not guilty, no weapon, unclear motive, and questionable police handling left just enough doubt to stop conviction.
Counts 1 and 2 is murder in the first degree with a firearm. Those are capital offenses. The maximum and mandatory penalty is life in Florida State Prison. Counts 3 and 4 are accessory after the fact to murder in the first degree. Those are each first degree felonies. The maximum penalty is 30 years in Florida State Prison.
Now, I know some of y'all are super thugged out in here. A life sentence, what? But when he was only facing 30 years, he was like, They added the murder charges afterwards to make that nigga know, oh, you think we only want Melly? We'll fry you too. I think that made him think a little.
For years, Melly and Bortlen kept tight, silent, loyal, claiming they were both victims of some street ambush. But loyalty, it's easy when nothing's on the line. When life sentences start creeping in, everything changes. And on September 9th, 2025, it did change. Just hours before his own trial was about to begin, YNW Bortlen folded. After 6 years of silence, he flipped. Took a plea deal that could send his childhood friend, the same one he once rode for, straight down. The bond was broken, and in one move, Bortlen went from co-defendant to key witness. The streets might call it betrayal, but to the system, it was the break they'd been waiting for. For 6 years straight, Bortlen held it down, never folded, never spoke out. He stuck to the story. It was a drive-by, and they were just victims caught in the crossfire. But once you're staring down multiple life sentences with jury selection starting the next morning, even the toughest start asking if loyalty is really worth spending forever in a cage. And the timing couldn't have been crazier. His lawyers were gearing up for battle, jurors were already lined up, then boom, everything flipped. Bortlen had been playing defense, but the prosecution, they were running a full-on chess game. Over time, the charges just kept stacking until he was facing 5 life sentences plus 75 more years. It wasn't just accessory charges anymore. It had escalated into 2 first-degree tragedy counts, gang activity, and witness tampering. That's when things got real. At first, Bortlen was only charged as someone who helped clean things up after the fact, not the actual trigger man. It was serious but survivable. But when the case against Melly hit walls, prosecutors shifted gears. They leveled up the pressure, hard. Adding first-degree tragedy charges was a whole different beast. In Florida, that comes with mandatory life, no parole, no mercy, no way out. Judges can't reduce the sentence even if they want to. It's locked in. Prosecutors knew exactly what they were doing. They pushed Bortlen to the edge, banking on the one thing that breaks silence faster than fear: no escape. After sitting behind bars for years, the thought of never breathing free air again became the final push for Bortlen to rethink that street loyalty. The witness tampering and gang charges added extra weight. Prosecutors weren't just saying he helped out. They were saying he helped cover things up as part of a whole operation. Each charge carried serious time. And when stacked together, it was clear.
In exchange for that, I'm going to adjudicate you guilty on the 2 accessory counts as well as the tampering count. I'm going to sentence you to 10 years in Florida State Prison. That will be followed by 6 years of reporting probation. At some point after the fact, the state wants to take a proffer from you or have a discussion with you, ask you some questions about whatever that may be.
They were building a case designed to bury him. What started as a possible few decades quickly turned into a mountain of legal heat, multiple life sentences hanging over his head. It wasn't just pressure, it was warfare. And the DA played it like pros. Bit by bit, they broke him down until Bortlen cracked. That's when the deal came. Under the plea, Bortlen dodged the 2 tragedy charges completely. Instead, he pled guilty to 2 counts of accessory after the fact, 1 count of witness tampering in a capital case, and 1 count of unlawful use of a communication device. The deal erased the charges that would have locked him up for life, or worse. But the time reduction wasn't the real price. The real cost, he had to talk. The plea came with a proffer requirement. Basically, Bortlen has to give a full sworn statement detailing everything he knows. No holding back, no games. And that's where things get dangerous for Melly. By pleading guilty to helping after the fact, Bortlen legally admitted that a crime took place and that he played a role in the cleanup. That alone is enough to blow a hole in the whole defense. Bortlen's guilty plea didn't just hurt Melly's case, it obliterated it. By admitting to helping after the fact, he basically killed off the whole defense theory that this was some random drive-by. That one move wiped out Melly's main argument and gave prosecutors exactly what they needed. On top of that, the plea included a DNA admission, putting Bortlen inside the Jeep when everything went down. No more speculation, no more maybe he wasn't there. It's official. The math behind Bortlen's decision was cold, but clear. With credit for time served, good behavior, and a structured sentence, he could walk free in as little as 3 to 5 years. Compare that to spending life behind bars if convicted of elimination. That choice was brutal, but simple. And then there's the proffer, aka the Queen for a Day deal. That means Bortlen has to spill everything about what happened on October 26, 2018. If he lies, deal's off, and he's back to facing every charge again. So now the system's designed it so he has to be truthful. No exceptions. This move completely tears apart the defense Melly's team spent 6 years building. And because the proffer is sworn testimony, it holds weight. No twisting it later. The pressure, it finally broke their silence and their bond. Street code says you never talk. But the system doesn't care about codes. It builds cages for the ones who stay loyal too long. And Bortlen wasn't trying to die inside one. Melly's retrial is now set for January 2027. And this time, Bortlen's expected to be the star witness. With inside knowledge only a close friend could have, his testimony might be the final nail. Melly's legal team is still holding firm, saying he's innocent and claiming the DA is just playing dirty to force a win. But with Bortlen now officially flipped, the game has changed for good. Like, come on, y'all really think Melly did that to his 2 best friends? That's what supporters keep saying. And this ain't the first time we've seen a young black artist caught up in a justice system that many believe is built to take them down. But when you break down Bortlen's situation, the numbers don't lie. Years already served, the threat of never going home, the choice, stay loyal and possibly die inside, or cooperate and maybe hug your family again one day. That's a decision that's broken stronger bonds than theirs. And it's not just legal pressure, we can see the toll. When Melly showed up for his bond hearing, the weight of 6 years behind bars was written all over him. This ain't just some holding cell time. He's spent much of it in isolation, with heavy restrictions, under the shadow of a possible death sentence. Experts say those kinds of conditions can mess with your head even before any conviction is handed down. Physically and mentally, Melly's been through it, and it shows. Now, with a retrial looming and Bortlen flipping sides, the battle ahead looks tougher than ever. Whether Melly walks free or not, this case has already exposed the harsh reality of how loyalty, fame, and survival clash when the stakes are sky high. Thanks for watching. If you rocked with this breakdown, hit that like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to tap into what's next in our hood. Check out the other vids on your screen for more wild stories, courtroom drama, and behind-the-scenes tea you won't want to miss.